ready for whatever is happening. You want to log your hours in the volunteers. You want to have your volunteers log your hours in the volunteer system. This is really important for a lot of reasons. And I added here that this is done by the volunteer. I've had some people reach out to me and saying, I'm having a really hard time keeping up with, adding hours in. That is something that's done by the volunteer. So you want to make sure when you're working with the volunteers at your school that you're encouraging them to keep a log. Most schools, I know when you check in, they have a desktop computer right there that when you're leaving and entering, you can remind the volunteer on the way out. If you see them, hey, make sure to log your hours. I want to make clear that this is a really important step in the process, but this isn't something that should be done by you. I think if I was a liaison, if I needed a little help with that, maybe you could identify a volunteer that would be really good at helping with those hours if there is somebody struggling. So again, delegating that responsibility and identifying different volunteers that can help you is really important. You want to be prepared and flexible with the changes that may occur this year. Again, we know things are always changing with COVID. So I just kind of want to put out there, even in the couple weeks that school started, things are kind of ebbing and flowing. And I think it's good to be proactive, kind of think a step ahead, especially when it comes to mentoring. I did have a couple requests to talk a little bit more about LunchPal, so I added in some slides later in the presentation. We can talk a little bit more about how mentoring will and should look if it's done virtually. So top priority, I just want to reiterate, it's really important to carve out enough time to review the manuals. Most, if not all, information that you need can be found there. So there's a couple different manuals. I know that they're pretty big. I know there's a lot of information, but that's sort of the point, right? We get a lot of questions. There's a lot of things we need to know. We'll be in a situation where a parent asks us something. So the first thing, if you're new, that's totally fine. Just say, like me, I'm new. I'm going to need a minute to look at this. I always feel like someone else's emergency, if they make it my emergency, it's okay to say, I don't have an answer right now. The way that I'm learning the manuals, I shared this before, is I kind of skim through it to have an overview of the information that was there. And then just like you, as I'm getting emails and questions coming in, I look through the table of contents, I figure out where the question kind of falls, and then I take the time to look at it and to read it. So we are 100% here to support you. We want to be here. And at the same time, we want you guys to be able to find that information. And with that said, taking ownership of your school and your program. I can't stress this enough. I've said before, I'm a mom in Pinellas County Schools. I have kids. Each school kind of has its own feeling, its own vibe, obviously its own staff, administration, volunteers, programs, what doesn't. So we have things that we follow at the district level, but some of these questions, there's autonomy here to make decisions, and you always want to work with your administrator on what's going to work for your school. But part of what I'm trying to do is to implement a really solid training, because I want you guys to have the information that you need. I want to empower you and build confidence to be able to answer questions, because again, I know it's sort of a sea of information and so much to learn. But I'm seeing some of the liaisons develop as they start to take the time and look for the information and to answer the question correctly. Then they start to gain a little bit more confidence. They start to have a little bit more ownership. And ideally, that's how it will work at each school. So other priorities and tasks you want to be working on. Actually, I'm going to stop for a second with the volunteers. I know I sent out a couple emails this morning. And I had a whole bit about thinking twice before sending an email. But I walked in this morning and my phone is ringing off the hook, as I'm sure many of you are as well. And my inbox is flooded with emails with the glitch that happened with, with Focus. So this is for how things should go when it's running smoothly. I know we're kind of probably all in a, today we're a little bit stressed out. We're getting all these questions. So just so you know, I updated the website explaining that there was a glitch. I know some of the emails had to do with active, inactive, reactivating. So let's just talk as if we're going to pretend that that email didn't go out last night. So it's a little bit clear about what the process is right now. So you want to make sure to get all your new volunteers registered online. You want to make sure all volunteers have reactivated profile. Again, for those of you that are new, this is something that volunteers have to do every year. And this is kind of our checks and balances to make sure that there's nothing that's changed in the profile that we would have to look at. So those are usually deactivated the end of July, beginning of August every year. And it's important that you stress to the volunteers as they reactivate, it needs to be done on a computer, on a desktop. It needs to be done in Chrome. And the reason for that is if you're using a phone, like you're using your iPhone, whatever, Android, as you're going in, not all the questions are guaranteed to populate correctly. So as your individual is going through and answering those questions, they might miss one. So if they miss one, their profile is going to be put on hold. The same way that if something had changed this year where they had to say there's an update to something that's happened, they would be put on hold. So what's happening if people are reactivating on their phones, their profile might be put on hold, and they don't really have to be put on hold. It's because they didn't correctly answer all of the questions, and it's because the format they were looking at. So just make sure when you're reminding your volunteers the importance of utilizing a computer, a desktop, and in Chrome. Keep an eye on new daily alerts and run weekly reports. So you guys know, I'm going to go in a little bit and share my screen. We're going to talk about reports, and Angie's going to go over some of the different details in focus. So we're going to save that for the end once I go through the PowerPoint, and we can show you how to navigate the different things on a live screen. You want to match students with mentors and share schedules with your administration. You want to review the 2019-20 list of volunteers and mentors that did not return. And this again is in preparation for any virtual mentoring that you're currently doing or maybe doing moving forward. You want to make sure that you have a camera and headphones that work. So if you don't, please reach out to me. I have a list. A couple of you have emailed me. Thank you for doing that. I have a list, and at the end of the week, I'm gonna make sure that we get on that and get you guys the webcams and the headphones. Also, with that said, we talked last week about a mentoring program where we would have seasoned liaisons matched with newer liaisons that could be kind of a peer mentor, person that has a lot of on-the-job knowledge. If that's something you're interested in participating in, if you're new, I think it's a good idea to do that. I'm new. I wish I had a mentor. So if I was in your role, I'd do it. Held off on that matching process just a bit because I'm sure you can imagine I'm getting a lot more requests for people that want to be mentored as opposed to people that are able to be the mentor. So it's probably going to be more like a small group format where we'll have a lead family and community liaison, and we'll match with a couple people, and we can have Zoom meetings. I can pop in and pop out, but basically an additional layer of support where we have people that are more seasoned supporting the new family and community liaisons with any questions they might have. Okay, so last week we talked about some reports that need to be run, and we've added a couple because now we're kind of full swing into school. So this is the slide that I'm going to share in a little bit, and we're going to go into focus and show you how that works. And again, I'm going to share this PowerPoint on Teams, so you'll have access to all this information, which leads us nicely into this slide. So I really, really, really want to encourage you guys to use Microsoft Teams. For those of you that haven't used it, it's great. And I'm going to be honest with you, in my previous job a couple years ago, I didn't love Teams. I thought there were some things that were lacking that I really would have appreciated having access to. And now I've been playing around with it. I think it's great. They've updated a lot. One thing that's really great about Teams is I'm syncing it with OneDrive. So as you guys need documents, or if we're going to update the calendar or different things are happening, those are live documents, and I can protect them in a way that nobody can edit But as we're making changes, Teams is going to pull that from OneDrive. So the short version is when you go in to get something, you have the most current and accurate version of it. So here I can just update the calendar. We have something we need to send home to parents, like we had talked before, which we've eliminated and I'll get to, the mentoring form that we had talked about sending home to parents to indicate mask, no mask preference. As those things become available, I can just upload those right to Teams and you can pull them. And the way that I'm doing it is there's a couple of different groups. There's a main family and community liaison group, and that's where I'm uploading documents. You know, without sounding silly, that's for all the family and community liaisons. Now, there's different groups that you should be in, either an elementary, a middle, high school. Now that's something that I am adding names to. So it's a multi-step process to get everybody in the system, but that's me doing it. So I want to encourage you, if you have not yet used Teams, if after this meeting you go on to check something and you're not there or in a group, email me and I can add you. So this is part of why I'm doing this. It's my opportunity to say to you, this is a communication channel that we're going to use. If you don't have access to it, let me know. And this is a really great spot to have a collaborative space to ask questions and interact. If multiple people are using it, this is kind of the same thought process with having a mentor and mentee for the liaison. So what I'm seeing happening is maybe a newer liaison will ask a question and then a more seasoned liaison will kind of chime in. And part of that is a lot of the emails that I'm getting are duplicates or another person had that question. And if we can consolidate that and put it all in one area and it's in a space that multiple people can see it, it's maybe a question that you have, or maybe a question you didn't even realize that you had, and the information is all right there. How it's working right now is that main family and community liaison group is where I'm going to upload documents. There's the liaison group by level. So again, what I'm noticing is a lot of the questions that I'm getting are really different based on level. So I'm going to encourage you to use those groups, elementary, middle, and high school, to ask questions. But if you have a general liaison question that you feel everyone would benefit from, please feel free to use that general family and community liaison group to ask a question. I'm going to go through this quickly again in terms of what the different roles are. So I talked before about what I do. So I do programming pieces, partnerships, community relations, general liaison support. I'm helping with the onboarding process. This is more information for you. What I don't want to happen is for Teresa and Angie are super, I mean, let's face it, we're all really busy right now. So what I don't want is parents necessarily reaching out to Teresa or Angie, but this is good for you guys to know, to have a better understanding internally how this office works and what the roles are. So Teresa helps with volunteer level 2 status, volunteer holds an ineligible status, and volunteer appeals. She supports with background clearance of level 1 volunteers, assistance with focus and running reports, and field trip dates sent at the beginning of each month. I know Angie's going to talk a little bit later and share her screen on focus, but again, this is when the coding becomes really important. If you're coding people as a mentor, or if they're doing a field trip, that aligns with what Angie does. So I'm just going to briefly go over, again, I added this because I've had a lot of questions about mentoring, especially virtual mentoring. I know last year was just wonky and some schools maybe weren't participating much with the mentor program. And this year we're full steam ahead. We're in person and virtual, but everybody needs to be participating with the mentor program. And we're going to give you different ways to help support you how to have a successful virtual program. But I know some liaisons started last year, and even though they're not technically new, because mentoring wasn't offered to the full extent last year with COVID, there's still some questions about the different programs. So this is a really brief overview. Our Pinellas County website is updated. There's different ways for you to get more information on the different programs, but I just want to bring awareness that it isn't just Lunch Pals. There are different mentor programs, and we really want to try and match the mentor with the program that's best for them. So we participate in Lunch Pals. We participate in Take Stock in Children. We participate in 5,000 Role Models of Excellence and Girlfriends of Pinellas County. So the mentor is to match individuals, businesses, and community organizations to provide students with the additional presence of a caring adult. So let's talk about some of the benefits of mentoring. I know most of you guys already know that, but I think that it's worth really taking some time to look at this, especially with the world that we're living in now. I know virtual can be challenging, but honestly, the kids need the support probably more than ever, and the benefits of mentoring are huge. So for the students, it's going to increase the level of engagement. It increases their academic performance, self-esteem, positive behavior, and graduation rates, all great stuff. Mentors get to experience the satisfaction in making a difference. They gain insight into listening and interaction, and it can be fun. Businesses and organizations are benefiting because the morale increases, recruitment and retainment of talented employees. So again, with all of this information, you can see everybody benefits from the mentor program. Let's talk a little bit specifically about the Lunch Pals program guidelines, because again, I've gotten quite a few questions on this. I'm going to walk through this process with you. So all mentors must be a registered volunteer and attend a mentor workshop. Debbie Bushman and I are the ones to do those mentor workshops. They're offered a couple of times a month. Currently, they're an hour and a half. I'm working to chisel that down to an hour. To me, it's more appropriate if we're partnering with corporations and we're looking people to participate on their lunch break. An hour seems more like a good time. So we're looking to make those changes probably mid-September, but as of now, it's an hour and a half and being offered virtually. And regardless if we go back to opportunities to doing in-person events, this is going to be geared towards more specific organizations where you would get a group. This virtual training platform has been hugely successful, and it gives us the opportunity to do it at different times of the day. We don't have to travel, so we do early morning sessions. We do true lunchtime sessions. And we also do evening sessions. Mentors are paired with the same gender in most cases. They meet once a week for 30 minutes during the school day. We ask for a commitment of 1 school year. You're matched to a school close to where you live or work. I've gotten a couple questions about this. I know it's a little funky right now. A lot of people are still, not us, but a lot of corporations are working from home. So that may change your location drastically. You know, if you work at a corporation in South County, but right now you're living in North County and working remotely. So if we still want everyone to participate, and I also want to put out there, you can continue all year virtually. So I've had a couple people call me and say, I'm working from home and I want to do this, but if I have to go back to the office. So what is, since you're up here now, you know, why don't you go ahead and get matched with a student that's close to where you live. And if you return to the office, then you can do that virtually, or, you know, vice versa, depending on how they want to do it. But at the end of the day, we want everyone to participate that wants to and figure out a plan and a path that's going to work for them. Again, mentoring is offered this year, face-to-face and virtually. There is no contact outside of school. Take Stock is a little different in the sense that they have an app that they can communicate, but with Lunch Pals, this is purely during the school day. Sometimes it's before or after, but on school grounds and no outside contact. So this is something that we talked about last week, the letter that we're going to send home to parents. Dr. Brim and I are working closely on this, and I'm hoping to send that or to upload it to Teams by the end of the day. And this communication that you're going to share with the parents, let them know that their child is participating in the mentor program. We're eliminating the language about mask or no mask, but we're going to add a little bit of stuff in. So I've gotten a couple of questions on that. I wanted to make sure to address it. That the goal is by the end of the day. Worst comes to worst, I'll do it tomorrow morning. that letter that can be sent home to parents to let them know that their child is participating in Lunch Pals. Okay, so now is the time that we're going to share the screen, and I am going to get out of this PowerPoint so you can see it, but I'm going to stop here for a second as I get all the techie stuff on my end and open it up for any questions. So feel free to unmute yourself or use the chat box.
Do we send a letter home to every Lunch Pail student or just the new ones?
So what we're working on is, again, I'm working with Dr. Brim on this. We think it's important for all parents to know that their children are participating. So as of now, what we're going with is that this is going to be something that's shared with all parents of any student that is being mentored in Pinellas County Schools.
If I could interject, I submitted the letter to top leadership, and basically the letter will be asking parents to select if they want their mentoring session or their volunteerism to be face-to-face or virtual. And then we will add also a column for them to give us any additional instructions that they would like to have. So that will be uploaded in Teams, as Ms. Lenarduzzi indicated, probably by noonish today, because I'll send it over.
Do they have the option to select either one? Like depending on if a prior mentor has a preference and they want to continue with that mentor?
Yes, they could select both. But we'll ask if they do to explain, because what we are trying to do is minimize liaisons having to alter every other week, whether you want mentor or where you want, so we're consistent with the platform. But if they opt to do both or indicate both, then we'll ask to please explain.
If a student has been quarantined, do we tell the mentor?
That information is not privy for us to divulge. If a child has been quarantined, I think the process from the COVID team will address all those pieces. Because in there, from my understanding, if a student is designated with COVID or being quarantined, all communications will come from our district to the individuals. But I do think if that's the case, that conversation needs to take place via the principal.
So if we need to cancel a session, we would just have the principal address it.
Yes, we just say at this time we need to cancel this session, and that will be all we tell the mentor. Yes. And if there is any additional information, that needs to come via the principal.
So I have a question. I noticed in looking at the alerts, there's 2 mentors alerts in when I'm checking. How do I reach out to those mentors? So does that mean somebody's applied to be a mentor and they're being sent to me because we're the closest school to them?
So when you have mentor alerts showing up, that just means that somebody went to the mentor training and was mentor trained, and they are associated with your school. So do you have 2 alerts, or is there actually just one in there?
No, there's 2 different
people.
Yes.
So you would click on your alerts.
Okay.
And then you would click on one of those people.
Okay.
On their staff ID, and then you pull up their personal information, and you can reach out to them via text message, or not text message, email, or you can just call them on the phone and ask them. That's how you reach out to them. You just click on their profile. They're associated to your school. That's why they're coming up on your alerts.
Okay, are there any other questions?
I have one. This is Sylvia Klein from Fairmount Park. You mentioned briefly about evening sessions, Lisa.
Or the mentor training or?
Oh, you were talking mentor training. I know at one point Dr. Byrne was saying she was gonna try to get mentor sessions approved for like 21st century scholars. So I didn't know if that was happening.
Yes, that still is taking place. And we will, I'll connect with Mrs. Lenarduzzi. I'm sorry. I was drinking something. And the liaison regarding the process, because we're primarily connecting with our grandparent program that will continue to serve those students in the evening during those programs.
Okay.
I have a question. I actually have a few questions.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. First, are we allowed to tell a volunteer if a student attends our school?
I'm not sure I understand the question, like a volunteer calls and is.
Yeah, so a volunteer emailed me and wanted to continue mentoring a student that they had last year, but was at a different school. Am I allowed to tell them if that student attends our school or not?
I know that in the past, what they've the Lunch Pals mentor can be automatically matched with the student in terms of you giving that information. And your Dr. Brim, do you know how that's handled as the student moves up by grade level, how the mentor is made aware of that?
No,
Absolutely.
I mean, like if they're they came from a different school. The
Okay,
student
yes,
paid for it,
yes.
And then they came here.
Yes, Mrs. Klein, if you're able and have that knowledge, instead of giving our mentors to run around, just say yes.
Sorry, I
yes.
can't hear you.
Okay.
Dr. Byrne, that's someone else. That's not Ms. Klein's.
Oh, okay. But to the question, are we able to tell our mentors that their student has moved to another school and actually give them the name of the school? Absolutely. That's called what we want.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
How do we know if this person is actually a mentor? And we can give that information.
Oh, okay. So I thought you had a relationship with the mentor and they were at your school and the kid moved to another school.
No, so
but
I got an
someone-
email. I got an email from a volunteer that the student was at a different school, but they transferred here. And they wanted to know if they can mentor, but that student is not a student here. But I'm not sure if she's a mentor or not. I have no way of looking at.
Oh, well, just refer that person back to the district office and then we could look them up in the database and talk to them individually.
And Jessica, so you know, there's actually a report you can run on that I'm learning, and we're going to show you reports in a little bit, okay?
Okay, because I was going to ask that question too.
Do you have another question?
Yes. When the mentor completes the workshop, are we notified?
Yeah, that's where you'll get the alert.
Okay.
And if you see, I've started sharing my screen again. You guys able to see that? Okay. So the alerts will be in here. I'm going to show you over here in a minute in the reports and reporting services, how to run the reports.
Okay.
But earlier in the PowerPoint, when we talked about keeping an eye on alerts, that's exactly where you'll find it in here once they complete the mentor training.
Okay. Next question. If a student, an old student is volunteering to being a mentor for younger students, do they need to complete that workshop as well?
When you mean an old student, like, is this a situation where
So I work at a middle school and high school students want to come and volunteer. Do they need to take this workshop as well?
It's my understanding anybody that's truly participating in the Lunch Pals program needs to complete the mentor training. Now, this might be like a peer tutoring or fall into a different bucket, that's more probably a case by case, but anybody that wants to participate as a mentor needs to be registered as a volunteer in the system and to complete the mentor training and then be coded as a mentor. And then again, the alerts and things will come through to do the matching.
Okay, last question. How do I have access to what you shared on the screen? I don't, when I pull my, when I go to focus, I don't have, my focus doesn't look like this.
Okay,
So-
you're,
Go ahead, Angie.
I'm gonna go over that with you guys
Okay.
today, and your focus isn't gonna look like Lisa's focus. I mean, it's
Okay.
gonna look somewhat like that, but you might be logging into the wrong place, so that I'm gonna start from a basic liaison training where if you've never used the system before, and I'm gonna go over that in a minute.
Okay, any other questions before I start running through the reports? Are we good on the chat box?
I mean, there's a lot of questions here.
So that's a no. All right, so let's go ahead and do the reports, and then at the end, I'll pull up the chat box and we'll chip away through those. Okay, Angie?
Okay.
Okay, and I'm just going to put out there too, this training is scheduled from 11 to 12. I can definitely stick around, but again, I want to honor everybody's time, that if they feel like they need to take off at noon, no problem. But I want to make sure and get through these screens. I have Patty here helping, and Angie, this is really important, and then we can chip away at those questions. So if you guys can see my screen, and again, my default is admin building. So when you guys go in, Angie's going to go through that with the school. So mine's going to read a little differently because again, there's some additional privileges that I have. But I'm going to show you. I'm sorry, Angie just walked in. She scared me. Oh, okay. Okay. My heart just stopped. Okay, so we're in the reporting services. I'm sorry. Okay, so and then if you guys are looking at this screen, so you guys are going to have some different options here. I'm going to put on my glasses for a second so I can see a little better. So I'm back in the PowerPoint, and I'm just going to go through a couple of the ones that I mentioned. So with this report here, the volunteer information. Is that? Let's do the liaison. Yeah. So again, what I see is a little different, and I want to make sure as I'm clicking in that this is what you guys would have access to and how it would read on your end. So that's part of my fun training is learning everything that I have and what you have and what you don't and I do, because I certainly don't want to confuse you with how I'm seeing things on my end. All right, so let's go. There's a couple of different reports that are listed. And if you guys can see all of these, we can really go into any of them. So let's pull. We did have questions about the lunch pals roster, but I'll just go ahead and contact in future.
Okay, yeah.
Is that fine?
Mhm.
Because these are all different reports. There really isn't a rhyme or reason to the sequence of how you do it.
So this one, you're gonna pick the month that you wanna, the contact and future date, so probably August for now.
And if you guys can see what I'm doing.
And then they won't have to pick their school because it'll just be there.
So again, this is a situation where because I can see different things on my end, you guys aren't going to have to click a school. I don't want to pick on anyone. I'll just do it randomly. I'll do this one. My daughter went there last year. So, okay.
Yeah.
So it's going to take a little bit of time, but that's fine. We'll just wait. So again, I don't know if you guys have access to a different screen, but this is kind of stuff you can play with. So you're going to choose the month and your school should automatically populate. That's not something that you would have to click. And then as you view the report, this is going to generate. Okay, not very big, but that's okay. So again, you can just kind of see the information here, and this is a way to run a report. Are there any questions on what I just did? And again, it's a little, this might be a kind of situation too, where you watch me kind of see what I'm doing. And then after the training, you hop on and play around a little bit. And if you are having trouble access something or you don't know what to do, you can reach back out to us. Do you guys want me to go through a different report? It's pretty much the same process where you're clicking on it.
Show the transitioning to a new student report.
Okay, Patty said it would
Mentors
be,
transitioning.
Patty said it would be a good idea for me to show you. So I'm going to exit out of this one. And which one is it, Patty?
Volunteer liaison. It's in that folder, yeah. So it's mentors transitioning.
Mentors transitioning with students?
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to click on this one and show you guys how to do that.
So you gotta pick a school, but they won't have to.
Okay, so again, if you can hear Patty in the background, that we have to pick a school, but you won't have to.
Pick a high, well, what'd you get?
You want me to do a high school,
Yeah,
Patty?
'cause
Is that
they'll
better
have
to
a-
show them?
They might have a lot. And then I need to explain something about that.
Okay. So I'm looking for a high school here.
Don't pick bogey.
I didn't. I picked Eastlake High School. And I'm not picking on anyone.
Bogey, Bogey has a lot of mentors.
Okay. Hopefully you feel excited if I've
I always pick
if I've
Bogey.
chosen you.
Okay, can I just say something while they're?
Yep. And
Okay, so
Patty's
while
here.
it's running, I want to explain something. The way I built this report, we used to have a field that said mentor wanted to transition, yes or no, but that's gone. So what I'm pulling is anybody that has certain startup codes. I pull from the enrollment that they're coming to your school as a new student. And then their information, what mentor they were with at the other school. But when it comes to middle and high school, they get they have all new sixth graders and they have all new ninth graders. So I have to, when the school rolls over at the end of the year, when the focused student system rolls everybody into the next year, they all get the same startup code. So if I pulled that code, then everybody would be getting all their kids that went from 4th to 5th or 2nd to 3rd or 7th to 8th. So what I do is I don't pull that code. I pull all these other codes. So you get all your new students who are really new to your school. But in middle and high, I have to say, and pull in 6th and 9th graders. So there's no way to get these kids off your list if you run it like 3 months down the road, but you still want to see if you're getting new kids. So for middle and high, you might want to download it to an Excel and then just sort by your grade level. So you're not looking at those 6th graders all again, or those 9th graders all again. Unless, you know, it's definitely a new 9th grader. But there's really no other way I can get the information to you. So that's how it works.
Okay, thanks, Patty. And as we're waiting on this report to load, are there any questions about reports?
Yes, I had a question on what screen did you initially go into to pull up the reports? Because when I click on reports, let me see here. When I clicked on the report button, it pops up a list of things to choose. But
Oh, so yeah, you're clicking on the report button. You need to go under your resources, like when you're on your main screen, when you're on your dashboard. Yeah, there. Lisa's showing it right now. And it's reports and reporting services. See where she's got it highlighted there?
Oh, yep, I see that.
Right there. That's your reports.
Okay.
So were you, Amanda, you were saying that you were doing this and it looked different? So yep, if you come over here on the right and you click right there. And again, keep in mind, that's a really good question. And Angie's going to help us out here again. I think it's slightly confusing that what I'm seeing on my end is going to be different than yours because you're associated with the school. But Angie's going to show you in a couple minutes. She's going to go in as a liaison, but it's in the same space over here that you would find it. Any other questions?
I had a question. I know that she's going to go in from as far as a new liaison looking at it. I think that would be more helpful if that was kind of done first, because now I'm more confused. I don't have access to any of what you guys are looking at.
So when you go into Focus and you log in, do you not see the report?
I don't see any, my Focus does not say Pinellas Volunteer System at all. So I don't even know where to go to access the
student system.
So maybe we should start with with me because they might be logged into the wrong spot, and then we can go into the reports, Lisa.
Yeah, okay, so.
Okay, so I'm gonna stop sharing. I'll let Angie jump on.
Okay.
Angie, go ahead. I might have to give you permission to share,
I need to scan your screen.
but I made you a co-host, so give it a shot. Perfect.
You can see my screen.
Yep, great.
Which screen are you seeing? This one here?
At the top, Pinellas Volunteer System. So similar to what.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to make sure I had the right screen on because I didn't want my background stuff coming out. I'm just going to click off of it real quick in case. Okay. So I know our screens look different than your screen. So I'm just going to log out of here and show you guys like basically where I start from in the morning. Okay. So, and I think that will be helpful, especially for brand new liaisons. So if you've never done this before, we want to go into Google Chrome. And then of course I have things up on the website, but you just go to PCSB. So when we open the school's webpage, in the top, you can see that there's a login. And this is where I just show everybody where to start from. I mean, I have it all pinned to my computer, so you want to pin these screens. So this is where we access Focus. It's here in the login. Does everybody see that? Okay. So the student system and the volunteer system are both Focus. Everything, it's both Focus. So we're just going to click on Focus. Okay. So this is where everyone gets confused. When you first click in here, this is the student system. You can tell because it says for staff, for parents, for students. That's where kids put their R2D2s and parents put their PDOTs. This is not the volunteer system. This is the student system. So to get to the volunteer system, you can just scroll down, and where it says for volunteers, add hours, click here. We click this. This is the volunteer system. Looks kind of the same. You guys can tell it looks the same, but this is the volunteer system. So you want to pin this to your computer somewhere, to your dashboard, so that you have access to it every morning. So, and it also says up here, the HTTPS, Focus // volunteer. This is the volunteer system. This is where you put your credentials in and log in. Okay. Does anybody have any questions about that? The difference between the two screens?
Yes, I think, and this might be what Miss Scott is talking about, some of us don't have access to the volunteer system. It's denied.
Okay, so I know, Amanda, I looked you up. You don't have access yet. So Lisa will make sure that you get access. Okay, she's the one who will give you access. If you don't have access to the volunteer system, you need to let Miss Leonarduzzi know. Okay. Okay. So Amanda, I'm sorry, you're probably not going to get much out of this if you're not able to log in, but I mean, I'm still going to keep going through it so everybody knows what to look at. So does anybody else have any questions between the difference between student versus volunteer system? We got it? Okay. So you just log in. Oh, go ahead.
This is the same place where you send the parents to volunteer? Is that the same way you tell the parents?
Yes, yes. So the volunteer system is for the volunteers to log in their VDOTs, or for a liaison like you, Dale, to log in your credentials. Okay, so if you needed to test for instance, a volunteer's credentials, you would just log out of your credentials and then test their VDOT. That's where you would do it. It's the same space. Okay, all right. So if you are a liaison that has access to the student system too, you can go between the two systems by pushing this button here, the student system. And that will just open up another screen for you to then be in the volunteer or the student system. If you need to work between the two of them, if you don't have to worry about it. Okay, so this is the volunteer system. So the first thing that, the main thing that you guys need to know how to do is how to look up a volunteer. So, and I'm going to make this, I'm going to go in as a liaison so that you guys can see that what we're looking at here. So whenever I'm going in as a liaison, I always go in as Eva. I don't know why. It's just what I do, Eva. Okay, so we be Eva for a minute. Okay, so now I am in as a liaison. This is what a liaison looks at. So if you are going to look up a volunteer at your school, we go to users, okay? We go to add a user. This is how I always look everybody up. So if we were going to look up me, if Eva needed to look me up, for instance, we would just type in the first 3 letters of my first name and the first 3 letters of my last name. So now when I come up in the system, you can see that I have a profile all in caps. This is my access to the volunteer system. You guys are never to go into one of these if you see one, okay? You always do the one that is lowercase. So this is my actual volunteer profile. So if Eva were to look me up and I said, you know, I want to know what my status is, can you please look me up? She could find me. And you also want to verify to somebody's birth date when they call you. Because if you have John Smith come in and ask you, am I in the volunteer system? You're going to want to make sure you have the right John Smith. And anytime you go into somebody's profile, you always still, even me, like I have a strange last name, you still want to say, can I verify your birth date with you? Because you want to make sure that you are talking to the right person. Okay. So now we'll go into my profile by clicking view. And now you can see that I'm not at this school. And the way you can see that is because you don't see anything here on the side. All you see is permissions. So in order for Eva to be able to see my profile at her school, she would have to click her school. And you can see that she only has access to Eastlake. So she would just click Eastlake. And then you would hit save. Okay, that's how you add a volunteer to your school. And even if you just need to look into somebody's profile, you can look into somebody's profile by adding your school. And then when you're done looking at their profile, if they're not a volunteer at your school, you can take your school off. Okay, does anybody have questions about how you add the person? Yeah, okay. So now that she has added me to her school, you'll see that now she has access to all my tabs, okay? So the first thing she's going to do when she's wanting to tell me, you know, what my status is to click the volunteer tab here. This is how you see what somebody's status is. So when you're looking at me, you can see that I am active. I'm level 2. And, you know, my background completion date is fine. Now, this is my level 2 background completion date, which is good for 5 years. This is when it expires. My level 2 expires in 2023. This is separate from the background completion date. These are our national background checks. You know that all volunteers must be level 1 approved first before they can go get level 2, right? Okay, so you can also see that the last time I had my national background check done was in 2017, which that is still good because it hasn't been 5 years since then. But so, I mean, does anybody have any questions about background completion dates or what you're looking? Does anybody have questions about what you're looking at in this screen? No. Okay.
I do have a question, if it's okay, about the level 2 expiration.
Go ahead.
Mine shows that there are 2 that are expiring. Does that just mean I need to call them, or what does that actually mean for me?
So it's not going to alert you, the system's not going to alert you if something is expiring, but it will alert you once it has been expired. Like, I don't know, what is the question that you're asking? Like,
Is that just somebody I need to call? Is that
on me? Is that why it's telling me that? I need to call this person?
No, you don't need to call them. I mean, we're just going to adjust their profile. You can, I mean, if you can certainly give a volunteer a call if they're regular people at your school, if they, you can let them know, oh, your level 2 is about to expire. Do you want to go and have it updated?
I'm going to jump into also when there is the level 2 expiration, they do have to get re-fingerprinted. So with the process, it's something a lot of the level 2 volunteers have their own records and know when it's going to expire. Our role, it's important to keep people updated if their status is going to expire, that they have to move forward and get the fingerprints again. And I wanted to jump back to something too, when we were talking about getting into the system. I just want to make sure everybody understands a little bit of this process also. So to get into this volunteer system, everybody should be in. I know I've been communicating with some of you, email, different things. So this is something that Dr. Brim and I, either of us can go in. It's me, she was helping in this period of me training. In order for that to happen, in Outlook, it needs to correctly display your job position. It has to read as family and community liaison. We're getting different requests from people. I need to be added to the system, trying to add different people. Just so you know, we need communication either from your school administrator, or if you're going to reach out to me, copy the administrator. And that's just to make sure that everybody in the system be in the system. So if you're having some issues or you don't have access, reach out to me separately. Some of that is done on the back end with HR and in terms. It has to update in the Outlook system for us to be able to go in and to grant you access. But other than the couple of you that I've talked to, you should all be able to get into the system. If you can't, as a huge problem, reach out to me and let me know. And then again, I want to reiterate, it's kind of me on the back end adding multiple places. So there's different emails from different people and everything needs to be done again manually. So you might find yourself in a situation where I got an email from an administrator, you're in focus, now you go over to Teams and you can't see anything. So again, it's me adding you. So I'm asking you guys to help with the checks and balances after this meeting. Make sure you can go into focus. If you can't, if you have an issue, reach out to me. If you don't see anything in Teams, reach out to me and I can easily add you into that system. So you have access to these recordings and trainings and all the documents I'm going to upload. Go ahead, Angie. Angie is still there?
I'm sorry, I muted myself. I was just sitting here chatting away.
Yeah, I bet it was awesome. Keep going.
It was great. Okay, guys, I'm sorry. I'm sorry you can't see me either. I didn't have time to hook my camera up today. Sorry. Okay. So does anybody have questions on how to read this page? Ask now, forever hold your peace. Okay. So that is how you look up, or that's how you tell what my status is. So now another question is when you have people who need to log into their volunteer account, how do I find their username and information? Okay, so finding username and information is right here. So see where my name is in blue, or the big name in blue here, you will click this. It will give you a drop-down screen. And then my username is right here. So, and I know that there's some capital letters in there and there's some lowercase letters in there, but when you give someone their username, please don't just cut and paste it to them. You need to type it out or change all the uppercase stuff to lowercase. A username should always be given in lowercase. So my username is you would give it to me all in lowercase. Now passwords are always hidden. There's no way to see it. Okay, I can't even see it in my admin thing. So passwords are always the last name with the first letter capitalized plus and their full birth year. So mine would be Beglider, capital B, 1975. And I'm glad I just had to tell everybody my birth year, but whatever, it's out there. Okay, so does anybody have questions on usernames and passwords? Okay, and so another great
Can you
tool.
repeat that? I'm sorry, can you repeat the password again? I'm making sure I take notes.
Okay, well, I'm also going to show you something else. So when
Okay.
that's going to give a quick guide to your volunteers. So anytime you are in somebody's profile or whatever, you can just click out up here. And if you want to get back to your main screen, if you need to go back to your dashboard for any reason, like your main page, you just click where it says volunteer system, like right here. You just click this. This takes you back to your main page. So you over here in your resources, you can see there's a volunteer quick guide. You guys can keep a copy of this. I keep a copy of this on my desktop. So if we click this volunteer quick guide, this is something useful to send out to your volunteers along with their username and password, because it gives them an example of how they're supposed to put their username and password in. This is really, it tells them how to work the volunteer system. So it shows them, here's the link, they can link right to the volunteer system, they can click it, it's interactive, and they can put the username and password in that you give them. It also shows them how to log their hours, which is great because you really want people to be logging their hours. So this is a great tool whenever somebody's asking for their username and password to send this out with it. So, and you can just save it by clicking this download, and you can just download it to your desktop. And that way you can just send it out anytime you need to. Okay. Does anybody have questions on that? Okay. So the other thing you need to look at, Eva, you have no alerts. I need a liaison with alerts. Okay, we have some alerts. So your dashboard is where you're going to see everything that's going on. So you can see that Eastlake has 14 hold alerts, 14 level 2 expirations, and 22 pending volunteers. So it's really not that many, because if we click into the pending volunteers here, which is something I want to discuss with you guys, pending volunteers. So you can see that this Tammy person is in here twice, and that's because admin is on her profile. So anytime, like if you have 6 schools attached to you, it's going to show as 6 alerts. Does that make sense to you guys? But it's really only one person. So let's say this lady calls, this Tammy person calls up Eva and says, I just signed up to be a volunteer and I'm really needed this Friday. Well, Eva would go into her profile by just clicking the ID here. She would go into her profile and we would see that she's pending. You can see her status is pending and that her background is, we're checking her background. We're waiting to check her background. So if it came down to this person was needed this Friday, then we would need to put a priority request on there. So when it comes to priority requests, and maybe we can send them out a list of what's acceptable, Lisa. So if this was somebody who was a mentor, we would go in here and we would code this a mentor that we needed. So you can only code people you need for mentoring as mentors, okay? When it comes to the priority request. If this is a person who is needed for a field trip, you would code them field trip. Again, with the field trip priority request, if I do not have your field trip dates, I will just remove this priority request. Okay? I must have a field trip date for you because, at that point, anybody can code anything field trip just to get their people done. So field trips and mentors, they have to be specifically for field trips or mentors, and I must have your field trip dates in order for that. So if this is just somebody who maybe needs to work the concession stand at Friday night's football game, then we want you to code them booster. Okay, so you would just click on booster and then you would hit save. Okay, that's all it takes to put a priority request on something. Does everybody understand that or have any questions about the priority requests?
A question about the priority request, but I do have a question regarding field trips. When you say field trips, does that include, for example, a class is going on a field trip and they might need volunteers to go on the field trip with them, or they're driving students to a field trip? Is that what that is for?
So if you need this, say we need this volunteer to chaperone a field trip this Friday, you would code this field trip. You would go in and you would code it field trip and hit save.
Okay, I
That's what
understand
that's,
that part.
and that's only on, we're just coding pending volunteers. We're talking about people who are pending.
Okay.
On your pending list.
Okay, so do I need to get a list of field trips from the administrator at the school?
Okay, so at the beginning every month, you guys have to send your field trip dates for that month to me. So I think this is the end. I should be receiving people's field trips. If anyone has something scheduled in September, I would need those field trip dates. Does anybody have questions on that? And you need, and the whole thing why you guys need to know your field trip dates is because you need to know if you need to have volunteers for those field trips. So the schools should, the classes, the teachers should be letting you know that, I need volunteers for this field trip.
Angie, I'm going to jump in because I noticed in the chat box, there were a couple questions about the difference between level 1 and level 2, both mentors and with field trips. So it's important to know that a level 1 volunteer cannot be alone with a student. So somebody asked if a level 1 volunteer could be a mentor at Lunch Pals, and that's yes, as long as there's you need to go through the level 2 process in order to be alone with a student. So you get into field trips, and I've seen through the years, some administrators have made a decision that in order to participate in field trips, all the volunteers have to be level 2. So that's decided at the school. But the difference between the two is level 1 is everyone goes through that, the level 1 process when they initiate in the volunteer system that they want to be a volunteer. And if they be level 2, that's where they go through and they get the fingerprints and then they get the badge. And you're going to want to check with administration on level 1 and level participation in terms of field trips. But level 1 volunteers are able to participate in the mentor program, the Lunch Pals program, as long as during those meetings there is supervision. Go ahead, Angie.
Okay. So does anybody have any questions about the priority requests and what we're looking for? Okay, so.
No, but can I ask a quick question where you were saying as long as there is supervision? Can you define what supervision is? Like if they're meeting in the media center, is that supervision?
So,
or do they have to be next to them to be supervising? Also for the virtual, what is supervision?
okay, so when it comes to face-to-face, so supervision is, so when we say supervision, they have to be in line sight of a Pinellas County school employee. We have to be able to see them. You don't have to hear them. So if you have a level 1 person coming in to do to mentor a student, they don't sit at the table with them. That's intrusive. So you just have to have a Pinellas County school employee has to be able to see them in eyesight. Okay. Okay. And also, another good tool for you guys to have here is when we're going, we have a lot of great information on our website because we do get a lot of these questions. So you can click on our website and maybe did I do it too fast, guys? So if you go to Get Engaged, when you're on the Pinellas County Schools website, it'll bring you to our office page, Strategic Partnerships. And we have a lot of great information on here also when it comes to volunteering and who gets what and who does what. Like if you just read the stuff on the website, it's very helpful. It's very helpful. And also, I mean, here's our level 2 procedures right here. Like who needs to be level 2, you know, what you have, what steps you have to take. So it's all on our website. Okay. So does anybody have any questions about that? And there's also another great manual for you guys, because we get a lot of questions daily about, you know, a lot of these things. If you go into your OSP volunteer program manual, there is tons of information in this manual. This is where you're going to get like all the policies and procedures to everything. So just looking through this, I mean, you can find out here's procedures for college students. Teresa gets a lot of questions about college students. I mean, the procedures are in here. Community service, like everything is in this guide. So I would just like to ask you guys to please check this guide and really try to find your answer using this before you email us, because a lot of the information is in here. And it's not that we don't want to help you, but we're this time of year, we are inundated with background checks right now and trying to get all your volunteers processed. So just using this guide is very helpful. So does anybody have any questions on this guide? Okay.
Just if you're doing updates to it, can we get a notification that something's been updated, that maybe we just need to look at it to see if any policies have changed?
Well, everything in here is updated. So if we update it, we will take this one down and put a new one in.
Okay.
So every time you click in it, it's going to be the most up to date.
Okay. So if you update information in there, how is that communicated to us? Like we might just be assuming that we know what's supposed to be in there, but or is that going to be communicated to us a different way when you make changes to that?
If there was a major policy change, I believe Lisa would send out information on policy to you if there was like a major thing. So that's where that would be like, okay. So
I'm going to jump in quick too. So obviously with everything that we've got going on, we have to be prepared for some changes. So those kind of things, that is something that I could chat it in Teams to you guys. And then I'm going to continue to update the website. But Carol, to answer your question, if there's any huge policy changes, like my personality, that's going to be marked important. It's going to be bright red and it's going to be an email. So anything really, that to me is exactly the point of email. Like, hey, this is really important. There's been a huge change. But some of the other stuff, like as we're now in person and virtual, and as those things change, I don't want to update you guys all the time about the conversations that are going on here because things do change and it's very fluid, but anything really important like that, like a policy change, you'll see it. And again, that's my personality, to that you guys are updated, anything major like that, to keep you in the know.
okay. So does everybody understand your pending alerts? I'm just talking about pending alerts, the ones that say pending. Okay. So your holds, and this is one thing I want to talk about, especially with people who are brand new to their schools. Before you do anything with these holds, every school is always going to have holds. So when we say take care of your hold alerts, what we mean is we really just want you to know what your hold alerts are. So some people, when they register to volunteer, they have something that they need to disclose. They will be in there, but they are also in there with a bunch of people who we have maybe background checked and found something that they need to disclose. So brand new liaisons to your school, you just need to know who your holds are. And I would encourage you to email Teresa and ask her, say, I want to deal with my hold records. can you please assist me on this? And as soon as she has time to get with you, she will contact you and she will go through your holds with you, because there really is a lot to it. That it's just a lot to go through in a brand new liaison training. I think it would have to be something that was a more in-depth. This is like a specific training on this, just like I think when it comes to mentors and stuff, that, you know, that it's going to be a specific thing on mentors too. So just if you're brand new to your school and you have hold records showing, please just reach out to Teresa and say, you know, I would like to go over my hold count, my hold records with you when you have a minute, and then leave her your contact information, and she will contact you as soon as she can and go over those with you. Is that good? Right, Teresa? Yep. I'm sure she's on there somewhere. So, okay. So,
That's correct. I'm here.
okay. I just wanted to make
I'm
sure.
just working. I'm listening, but I'm working.
I know, I'm sorry. Okay. So the other thing, thank you, Teresa. Didn't mean to bother you. Okay, so the other thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about was mentors. So I'm just going to go over this quickly. So, well, I need to find a school here. I need to change from Eva. I'll have to go back to myself here. So when we have mentor alerts, of course, if you guys are not going to have 189 mentor alerts, but I can't figure out, I have to figure out what school has mentor alerts here. Of course, Bogey. So let me just go in as Nikki. Okay, so Bogey has 2 mentor alerts. And like I said before to you guys, when you see 2, that's probably just 1 in there, because there's probably admin correct on this. So you're going to click on your mentor alerts when you first go in here. So you're going to want to look at your mentor alerts. This just means that somebody at your school attended a mentor training and we have now marked them mentor trained. Okay, so you're going to click on the alert. Then you're going to go into this person's profile. And you can, well, of course, this person is active. So you would just want to reach out to this person and see, see if they are, you see that they're interested in mentoring. And of course, you would want to find a student for them. If you don't have a student right away, you still want to contact everybody on your alerts just to let them know, like we at the district here have gone through the process of training these people. These people really want to be mentors. So we don't want to just leave them sitting there without ever being contacted. So even if you don't have a student for this person right away, you still want to contact that person and let them know that as soon as you get a student, you will contact them. And you just want to get to know people and see what their preference is. Do you prefer having a male or a female to mentor? Of course, we want to have our female students being mentored by a female, or vice versa, the males by males. But in some cases, we can't always do that. So, but if the mentor does have a preference, like if this person only wanted to mentor a female student, you would want to know that. So you want to find that information out. So, and once you have contacted this person, we want to click on the Student Association tab. And you want to put comments in here. This is when we say comments for mentors, you have to be in the Student Association page. We have comments all through this thing, but this is where you want to put your comments for your mentors. So you could say, contacted on 8/26/2021, waiting to place with a student, and then put your name. Okay. So you want to put a name and you want to put a date in that comment, letting other people know that you have contacted them, especially if this person was associated to 6 different schools, because every school that they are associated to, that school will be alerted of this profile. Okay. So if you click into this person's thing and you already see, well, Bogey already talked to them about mentoring, you could also contact them if you would like to and see if they want to mentor at your school. So that's what you would do in the case of getting people placed and trained or I mean, putting comments in. So does anybody have questions on that part? Okay. So when you're going to associate students, and I think that this is something that maybe we're going to get a little bit down in the weeds in how to associate people, Lisa. This might be like a specific training that we have to do just on mentor stuff. But does anybody have questions on how do you associate a mentor to a student?
I guess my question is, it says on the screen, obviously, take stock in children. When the person is signed on to be a mentor, or 3 you guys agreed upon, is that already populated when we get to it? Or is that something we talk to the person, they say, this is what I want to do?
Okay, so I think I saw your question in the chat box when you were asking, can they be lunch pal? Can they be take stock? Is that what you're asking, Heather? The difference? So
that wasn't me, but
okay. Well, we basically put in there, a lot of people will say like most of our high school people are just take stock mentors because most of our high school kids are in that take stock program, but not all of them. We do have some mentors. I mean, you can just mark them. You can go in here and mark this as a lunch pal. You can change that to lunch pal. They can do both. They can do girlfriends. They can do 5,000 role models. They can do anything. But so is that what you were asking, Heather? Can you change it?
Are you asking me?
Yes. Is that what you were asking? Can you change it?
No, my question was about seeing the hours that people are logging in for the week. How can you see? So it's a different subject. So it wasn't me.
Oh, so you want to ask about hours? Like, how do you see their hours?
Yes. So, I have a lot of people coming in and out of the school right now, and I keep, telling them, log your hours, but I don't know if they are. How do I see that they are?
There's a report you can pull for that.
Okay. It's the same place we could look at the reports.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and actually I can take you right to it. So in reports and reporting services.
Yes.
We're going to go to the liaison one, and you can go right here, 0002. See this volunteer total hours info?
Yep. Yep.
When you click that, I mean, I don't know what school I was doing here, but I think you're at Gulfport, right?
No, I'm at Clearwater Fundamental.
Oh, Clearwater Fundamental. Oh,
yeah.
My bad. Well, we're just going to do Gulfport.
Okay, so, that's fine.
But you would just click this, and then this report would run.
Okay.
I honestly don't know how long it's going to take. Some of these reports take a minute to run. Some of them can take a long time to run.
Okay.
And I believe they are kind of working on focus right now. So
that's fine. I just need to know where, because I just don't,
Yeah. So most of your reports, you can find them in the reports and reporting services. And also, if you click on the liaison manual, all the way on the very last page of the manual, the last couple of pages, it will tell you what these reports do and what type of information it's going to display in that report.
Okay.
But basically, when you're reading them, they're pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, I just need to get in the habit of making sure I'm looking at that manual. I kind of just been finding, all my stuff on my own, but I just have to remember that. Go to the manual.
Yeah.
So Angie, I'm gonna jump in quick too, because I know we're way over on time, but there's just a couple of things I want to cover. So that was a really good question to kind of lead into this part. Again, if you haven't taken time yet to look at the manuals, make sure to just kind of take some time to do it. Again, they're massive. I'm new. It took me a while to go through it. And there is so much information, but again, the beauty of it is there's so much information there. So there's 2 different manuals. Angie just showed you, if you could hover on it, Angie, the volunteer liaison manual, and then the OSP volunteer program manual. So that is in the email that I sent out at the beginning of the year. If you don't have access to it, if you can't find it here in Focus, if you didn't get that email, let me know. I saw a couple of you in the chat box about webcams and headphones. If you don't have webcams or headphones and you need them, I jotted down a list here, but please email me so I can make sure to get those to you. If you want to participate in our internal liaison mentor program, meaning I would work to match you with a more seasoned liaison, send me an email. I want to do that matching by tomorrow. Again, it's going to be more small group, but a lot of the questions that we're getting here, I think are exactly the kind of topics that a more seasoned liaison could take the time to meet with you guys once a week, once a month, and kind of go through these different scenarios. Like, hey, a volunteer walks in, I don't know if they're logging hours, or he or she's asking for this. And on the Zoom sessions, that seasoned liaison can share their screen and walk you through a little bit more here. Also, I said this earlier, I want to repeat it. Make sure you can go into Teams. Angie, I'm going to ask you to stop sharing your screen. So I'm going to show them what they should be seeing on their end in terms of Teams. And the reason I want to show you that, thank you, is we talked earlier. So this is my screen. Can you see different little things? So again, this is mine. So I'm going to have things that are a little bit different. This is the family and community liaison group. So again, remember that's the big one that everybody's in. And you can go into these different groups and you can see here, like last week on Friday, I uploaded that PowerPoint, the introduction and welcomes from last week. And I also uploaded here a recording. So this will be the same space. Sheila, I think, is recording this. Thank you, Sheila. Send me that recording, and then I'm going to upload this recording either today or tomorrow here. This is where earlier we talked about the mentor letter that needs to go home with the parents for any parent that has a child that's going to be mentored. This is exactly where it's going to go. I actually talked to Audrey this morning, and like I said, it's awesome. So people are putting questions here, and Allison, Albie, thanks so much for using this, guys. So a lot of these questions you can put here, and then other people can jump in. And I'm going to go back to all teams for a second. Some of these threads, again, you can kind of decide if it's a question that should really apply to all liaisons, or maybe it's a more, as you get into middle and high school, you guys kind of know the things that you're going to do more of, like take stock in kids, or different, things at an elementary level are a little bit different. You can see people are posting questions here, and I really want to encourage you guys to go in here. There's I'm getting a lot of really good questions, but I am getting a lot of duplicate questions. So again, if I'm getting a question more than once, it's making me realize enough people don't know this, that we should talk about it. So eventually what I'm going to start doing, if I'm getting multiple questions, I might just put right here, hey, I had this question a couple of times. I just wanted to let you guys know. So a lot of questions that I'm seeing in the chat box that I wish we had more time for, but I do want to cut it off because we're about 30 minutes over. Ask your questions in that Teams chat area. So again, either by, or if you go back to all teams, you can do it here. So this is really, really a great resource for you. This is what you should see. Again, if you're not in Teams, and I will manually add you. So I'm going to stop here. Just a reminder that next week, I'm going to try to start meeting by level. And if we feel there is a need to have a second, like a follow-up meeting to this, some additional training, I'm flexible. We can continue to work through the process, see where you guys need support. We're here to help you. I really appreciate you guys taking time out of your day. I know that you're really busy. I'm sure you've been very busy today with phone calls and emails from that email that went out last night. And again, we're here to help. So if there isn't anything else, I'm just going to say, I hope you guys have a great day. Keep your eye on Teams for everything, and we will talk to you soon. And I'm gonna stop sharing my screen so I can get the Zoom one to end it. Okay, bye, everybody.